once again to go racing.
The pressure is really on now.
And it's pole position.
And it's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome along then to this round number 6 here in the PSGL F3 season. We are here at Silverstone this weekend, the birthplace of Formula 1 in its current format, as the championship has been running since 1950. Alongside me today in the virtual commentary box is none other than Scruffy. Scruffy, how are you doing today?
I am good, thank you. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one with Silverstone because it's always fun being the home circuit of myself and Dan. It just makes it a little bit more easy on that front. But yeah, it's definitely one of those fun circuits. It's fast. It's got difficult corners. It's a circuit that a driver needs to be completely switched on for.
Absolutely, yes indeed. You've got all these challenging sections, obviously this new track layout that has been here since 2011. Of course, we had that classic layout before that, which is a bit more difficult in terms of the racing. This one much more better, encouraging that wheel-to-wheel action that we so desperately crave in Formula 1 these days. Of course, you've got the loop and village and all that sort of thing in Sector 1, then down the Wellington Straight, then through the Brooklands section back there, then through the old start-finish straight, up towards Cops Corner, then Maggots and Beckett's, and then up towards Stowe Corner in the final sector, of course. So once we go through all of that, then in the qualifying session itself, we can talk through a lap, something like that along the way. Of course, it is one of these circuits where it's a little bit of a compromise in terms of your straight line speed versus your downforce here, because as I mentioned, you've got a few of those corner names where you are going to need a decent amount of grip in the car, but of course the more that you pile on, the more vulnerable you're going to be in those high-speed sections like the Wellington Straight and the Hangar Straight, of course.
Yeah, and I think that one of the most important corners to get right, there's a couple of them that really have to be got right. First of all, Cops, which everyone will remember from a certain F1 race previously, is one of those corners where you need to get that balance right, because if you get too low downforce, you're going to spear off into a car to your left if you're having a nice little battle with them. And if you've got too much downforce, well then you're going to have basically that. I have just realised that I am in this as a driver. 1 second.
Oh dear.
I'm just backing out because I didn't press spectator mode.
Dear, oh dear. Well, that's absolutely fine. As long as you're able to get yourself out, and we're able to all the drivers who are necessary in.
Yes.
So that's all good. As far as today is concerned, then of course we are following on from an Italian Grand Prix, which proved to have a few different outcomes and shenanigans going on versus what we saw on the circuit. Of course, on the day, owing to penalties and things like that, 1 second ended up winning that on the road by 1 second. I remember shouting that one out with Biggles. But on our championship standings table, it shows them as coming second in that particular race, with Cookie winning that one last time out. So clearly there's been some appeals and so on, which have then resulted in a little bit of a shuffling of positions and so on. And then third place last time out, according to the standings, was Bolan. So in terms of this race here, what are we reckoning in terms of anyone that we should be looking out for this time?
I think based on most of this grid, you've definitely got Cookie. If I remember correctly, after the standings at the start, they are third. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They certainly are, yes.
Currently in the standings. They are a very quick driver. Same with Damien too. We've seen him going fairly quick in a lot of these races. So it is an interesting one, and it is basically going to be a case of consistency. Silverstone is one of those circuits. You've got to be consistent around pretty much all of it because there's a bit of everything.
Absolutely, yes, indeedy. And as you can see on screen there, we've got AlphaTauri currently leading the way on the constructors' standings here in F3. And then they are closely followed by Alpine and Red Bull in the top 3 at the moment. So, in terms of all of that work in the background then, and informing you of how things are looking at the moment, we now head to the circuit. And we're on board at the moment with Milan, who is in their AlphaTauri car number 2. So whether they've set themselves a custom number or not, I'm not entirely certain. If not, then maybe we've just got a Stoffel Van Dorn fan. But down the Wellington Straight they go on their outlap, and most of the drivers out on their outlap at the moment. We've got a couple on timed laps. We have Daniel Rocca in the Ferrari. We've got Cookie and 1 second as well. And then Sandro has just come back into the pits. Presumably they've had some invalidation or something on the way around.
As we head down through the infamous cops, very fast right. It's definitely a part of the circuit where it becomes very difficult. Maggots and Beckett's especially, because it's so fast. It's just left, right, and then you've got to set yourself up perfectly onto the hangar straight. It's not the easiest. Can make you feel a little bit nauseous.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you know, these drivers are now taking to the Silverstone circuit just a couple of days. I think it is now just a couple of days at least, since we've had a performance update. So now the cars are much closer to what they are in the real world and in the real life F1 season in terms of their overall performance, which means that they are slower and they lack a bit more grip because of the aerodynamic changes that came into effect this year. And of course, Codemasters making use of either estimated figures or just the figures from the end of last season initially, and then they've patched in some figures which are a bit more reasonable, a bit closer to reality. That being said, of course, the game is still not perfect just yet, as a purple sector is set there by Damien, who we're on board with there. But I hope, you know, the hope is that in time things will become an awful lot better and closer to what we see in the season at the moment. So let's ride on board with Damien then as they come around the final corner, and this will be one of our first times. We've got a couple on the board at the moment. We'll come to them in a second, and Damien goes provisionally fast. So 126.5 with Cookie just behind them, also on a 126.5, and then we have Leonard just slotted in time there. 126.6 and 1 second are on the road race winner last time out. And of course, second place after penalties were dished out and appealed and so on, slotted in fourth with a 126.9, but crucially on the medium tyre. So a good lap time from them overall. And it will also mean they'll have some spare soft tyres left over for later on in the session. Carter Lundy has
fastest. Yep, there it is. I was just going to say. Sorry,
yeah,
for cutting you off
there we go. No,
Luke, since we were on board there, he'd set a fastest second sector, and I was just watching, going, could he potentially take this up into pole? And he has. So he's going to back off the lap at this point, I think. Get a little bit of space. As it's so great, he goes spinning round in front of Luke Smith. That was not a very fun way to slide off the track, but there you go.
Is there ever a fun way to slide off the track?
There's never a fun way.
Racing? No, no.
Well, there is a fun way, and it's not into the wall. That's
usually
basically...
if you've stolen the car, I think that's the only fun way you can go off the track, I'm sure.
Indeed.
But here we are then, on board with the Ferrari Svetkov, and they have set a 127.4. Again, on those medium tyres, so more pace to come from them and from 1 second once they get themselves onto the soft tyres, and it will mean that they'll just have that opportunity if they can really bomb it around the circuit during this qualifying session. They may get some more runs in, or more opportunity to do runs on the absolute freshest set of tyres and the track in the best condition that it can be. In terms of this driver, that is Moon in the Alfa Romeo. Moon, I do like saying that username also much.
Great name.
But there we are then. So Moon is coming through Cop's Corner there. Managed to keep it nice and tidy here, and then through Maggots and Beckett's. Now, I'm told from people who've been racing here at Silverstone, I've personally been racing at Spa in preparation for a race I'm doing this weekend. But here at Silverstone, some people I know have been racing and have said that Maggots and Beckett's is a lot nicer to drive now as a result of the performance updates. So, while the cars may be slower, it might be just a bit easier for the drivers now.
And I'm on controller anyway, so I feel those curves way more in terms of the car's back end kicking out. I haven't yet taken Silverstone, but interestingly, I am going to give that a go later this evening just to see how that's going to be. As Moon drops into 6th, slowing down just before the line there. That was interesting.
Absolutely, yes indeed. I tell you what's also come out recently is the new podium pass on the F1 2021 game, where what caught my eye in particular, there's a couple of Endstone inspired liveries on there, which I'm not sure if you've seen just yet, but there's one of a very much similar to an old Benetton and an old, early 2000s Renault livery as well. So there's some to check out at some point, I'm sure. Right then, so back to the action. We've got Sandro here coming down now to finish off their lap, their first attempt in the Williams car. Williams, of course, you can always tell which one is a Williams if you're just seeing it from the driver's point of view as they slot into 12th place there with a 126.8, because Williams, of course, the only team not to have their screen integrated into the wheel. Whereas everybody else, like the Mercedes you can see here, that screen is there. So I suppose you can also say that all the various stickers and so on that say Williams would be another good indicator, but there we are. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Who knows? It's been a long day. So then, John TF1 has invalidated their lap time, so we won't see anything from them on this tour of the circuit. However, if they're able to charge up the battery, which you'd imagine they're probably doing, given that the rear of the car there, the light is flashing, even as they're going through Copse Corner. So they could well be getting themselves charged up and ready to go. Yep, there you can see their 98% battery. Thank you very much, Biggles, in the virtual control room for us today, and providing us everything that you can see on screen. Yeah, so 98% charge at the moment, so they will likely be going for another attempt here if they've got the fuel for it. Let's wait and see then. So as they come down, it's always a very last-minute thing if people decide to go into that pit lane. They've not on this occasion, so now then they'll come through the last couple of corners and onto the lap they go. Let's ride on board with John TF1 then, as they start a lap of Silverstone. Down the Hamilton straight we go then, towards turn number 1. Starting on the outside curb, then swinging it through the inside there, keeping it flat on the floor. You can see there, that green bar absolutely full, showing they're fully committed to that throttle pedal. And then taking a bit of a wide line through that corner there, and then just a bit wide of apex, and then just a little snap of oversteer on the exit there. So a little bit of steering to correct that, but now onto the Wellington Straight with much less in the way of dramas here. DRS is open, you can see from that big green line that's now disappeared from around the dashboard at the bottom of the screen, and now through Brooklands they go, and this complex here, and through Luffield as well, and down towards the old start-finish straight then, here at Silverstone, down towards, of course, Copse Corner. The last time we saw Mercedes speeding down towards Copse Corner on board and feeling all excited, I'm sure, was at the start of the British Grand Prix earlier this year, as Scruffy has mentioned earlier on in this broadcast. We've got the car ahead, just keeping out the way as we enter Maggots and Beckett's then. Nicely cutting the corners, but maybe just a bit too much, because you can see once again they're in the bottom right corner, and indicated by the fact they've just decided to ignore the track in the last part there in Chapel. They've decided to bail out of that one because, again, they've invalidated that lap time. Someone who's not invalidated so far is this guy, Nomsi, who have currently set the fastest first sector of anybody in their Red Bull car and have not put a time on the board just yet. They're going to try and get as much slipstream as they can from that Mercedes there on the inside, which you would imagine would be Carter Lundy, given that we've just been on board with John TF1. And through Copse Corner they go. Maybe a little bit more on the raggedy edge there, but no indication of the car stepping out too much. And as they go through Maggots and Beckett's, this is textbook. Look at this. Into every single apex, using as much of the car and the width of the track as they can on exit. And now they'll get a nice little tow from the car just ahead. The Alpine, you can see there, just further down the hangar straight. And now into Copse Corner they go. So dab on the brakes, getting the car turned in. Again, very nice way to attack the curbs there and just make use of the apex. Down then into the final sector and then braking nicely. Just bouncing over the sausage curb there, not making too much use of it. And then up towards the edge of the exit curb and then through the final corner. And what would you say? Absolutely fastest time there. 126.1 for the Red Bull driver. And I must say, being on board for that one, you couldn't have thought it would be anything else, really, could you?
Definitely not.
Hooked up lap.
Definitely not. And I mean, the fastest sector came in on sector 2 as well. It was hidden behind the multitude of yellow flags for some reason. But it was definitely there. And it's just a case of Nomsi is insanely quick on this. As I say that, Damien Kesson takes over Nomsi by pretty much nothing at all, which is an impressive gap.
As it looks very, very good. It's these sorts of circuits like your Spa and your Singapore and stuff like that. These sort of technical circuits where there's an awful lot where you can get it wrong, and the times will come in and that sort of around where we are now, 125 all the way up to sort of 140 something, where these tiny little gaps that they're starting to get between them now, we're talking hundredths of a second or even thousandths of a second, that's where you're really starting to see the cream of the crop, where there's very few mistakes and drivers who are all operating on the absolute limit of their machinery and their skills as well. We're on board now with Luke Smith, who of course was on provisional pole until some little time ago. Boland has been able to sneak their way up into P3 as well, whilst we've been having a look at everybody else on circuit. So now with the Aston Martin coming through Copse Corner, nicely taken there, and it's all about these last few corners now. So how do they get the car turned in? It's nice through there, it's nice through there as well. And then onto the exit curb, they've been able to then get the car just rotated that bit quicker, and there we go. By about a tenth or so, they've gone fastest. So just ahead of Damien in the hat, who there you can see with the timing graphic on screen by the timing tower now. Just that tiniest of gap between Damien and Nomsi initially, and now it's a bit more of a respectable 1/10 of a second between Luke and Damien there.
And on board with Moon, just going through Maggots and Beckett's right now, heading towards Chapel, as this is one of those laps again that it looks quick. When a driver goes out onto the edge curb there just before this Hagger straight, it's an interesting one because you can generally see how wide they have to push. They effectively go onto the grass, especially on the entrance to Stowe, just back there as well. Setting the car up again, back for Vale and Club, just coming up here, heading into Vale. Not quite, as I say, could have probably used more of a curb there, but it should still set them up nicely for the end here. That slight slide may have compromised that lap a little bit. And that might be a tiny bit why they didn't increase too much of their previous time. They went absolutely steaming through the lap where they managed to jump up the board. But now slowing down a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was a good effort by them. I think I'd agree with you. They've certainly lost some time because of the oversteering moment through this corner here, which has been navigated beautifully by Leonard in the Alpine, who goes P6. Just 2.5 tenths off of the pace currently set by Luke Smith with that 1:26.0. Now, given that we are so close to that tantalising 1:25 here, we still do have a little bit of time left to go in this session, about 4.5 minutes or so. There we go. There it is. So with that time remaining, I reckon we might well see someone getting into the 1:25s here. What do you reckon?
There's definitely a possibility. I think Luke Smith will probably sit in the pit. I think it's very difficult for someone to get into the 1:25s at this point. I wouldn't put it past any of the top 5 at all. Wouldn't put it past any of them. Potentially even down, considering how close everyone is, potentially even down to the top 11 or even all the way down towards the top 17. It just depends on how much time they can gain. And I think the field is so tight together. Basically, the entire field separated by less than a second.
Absolutely,
if we're ignoring past 17th.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, we certainly saw some very, very close times last week. You know, we had the likes of, I believe Svetkov was very quick over 1 lap, and they're in P9 at the moment. We've got Kersey and Luca, of course, as well, who are also known to be rather quick in this division over the course of 1 lap. So, as we watch now with Alex O'Grady in the McLaren, of course, the most recent car to win in Formula 1, much to my personal delight as someone who's been a fan of theirs for 20 years. But there we go then. So down onto the old start-finish straight we go then, and hopefully for Alex O'Grady's sake they will start to replicate some of that success seen by Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris this past weekend. So through Copse Corner they go then, and up towards Maggots and Beckett's. They maybe could have used a bit more of the exit curb there just to get the car to rotate out a little bit more and carry a bit more speed, but as they go through Maggots and Beckett's, it's a little bit wide of the first 2 apexes. The second 2 though, beautifully carried there, not getting onto the grass on exit either, so they'll be able to make full use of the tarmac to be able to get the most grip out of those tyres. And then up towards Stowe we go, and then turning the car in, as you see there, getting the tyre hooked up onto that apex curb very nicely, and then back down the hill towards the end of the lap then. So braking into the corner, a little bit of over rotation it looked like through that first apex, but then they seem to gather it up reasonably well, far of the apex on the final corner, and over the line they go, and it's only P15 for Alex O'Grady on this occasion.
Exactly, I think part of where that lap may have been slightly lost was, I believe, passing through Copse. He let off through Copse, and it is possible to take Copse flat out. You just have to absolutely know exactly what you're doing and what you want from the car. It's not an easy corner to take flat out, and it does require some serious metal to actually get through that.
It certainly does. It certainly does, and it's it's an interesting one, isn't it? When you're trying to approach Copse Corner, sometimes you can take it flat, sometimes you have to shift down, sometimes you have to lift, sometimes you end up just chucking the car in, praying, and it works anyway. It is one of those bizarre corners in this year's game in particular, though, as I say, maybe the performance patch will have sorted some of that out. We're on board then with Damien at the moment, as they head round in the Haas, currently P2, and just building up on their outlap now, getting ready to go. The Mercedes that they've just let by is now slowed up in front of them, so I'm curious to see what on earth is going on here. They're bouncing off the rev limiter in gear 1, so yeah, a right decision there, I think, from Biggles in the control room to focus on somebody else, so we'll have a look at Svetkov instead. So the Ferrari then heading down the old start-finish straight, and into Copse Corner we go. Full commitment there, it looks like, and that's how you take Copse Corner in 8th gear the whole time, flat the whole time. Through Banks and Beckett we go then, and it's a good riding of the apexes as we go in 1, 2, 3 and 4, and now as we come out towards the exit, we then run out towards the exit, and now down in 7th gear. And, well, that looked like a big lift to me. They're not invalidated. So I'm unsure what they've done there, but there'll be no improvement from them, I'd imagine, on this occasion.
Maybe just hitting traffic, potentially. I think that may have been what the case was. Maybe just hitting a little bit of traffic, slowing down, as 1 second is potentially going to mean a little bit of traffic as well. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure why they braked.
Yeah, we've just been on board with the Williams there, and they've done the same thing, weirdly. We're now on board with Svetkov's teammate, Daniel Rocker, and they are heading down into the final couple of corners now, and it looks to me at least, oh dear, and there we are, we've just overstepped the track limits ever so slightly. They've got 5 seconds if they can get it round the final couple of corners, but I don't think they will, no. So it's no time at all for the Ferrari driver, and well, unfortunately for them, that is going to be back of the grid start for the Ferrari there. John TF1 also going to be at the back of the grid unless they're able to pull something out on their time lap. We're currently looking at their teammate, Carter Lundy, who has set a purple second sector so far. So if they're able to hook it up in this final sector, we may well be seeing someone new on pole here. So Luke Smith currently still leading the way with that 1:26.0 from earlier on. Carter Lundy comes now around the last couple of corners and up towards the exit curb they go, through then on the inside, up to the line. It's not quite there. 0.07 of a second away. So that is a 1:26.1 by my amateur math. And that is incredibly close for Carter Lundy there. Cookie has also crossed the line, so is Nomsy and Damien, and now Bolan as well. They will start no higher than their current positions. And we're now waiting on this man, Leonard, to come through in their Alpine and show us whether or not they're going to be in. There's a Mercedes parked up on the side there. I suspect that's John TF1. So they are likely to not start any higher than 19th. 1 second has retired from this session as well. So now then, the Alpine heads down into the final part of Sector 3. Round these last couple of corners then, making good use of that exit curb just on the penultimate corner, cutting through on the inside there and up to P6. Good time there from Leonard, just 1/10 away.
And it's certainly been some excellent driving from all of the drivers, regardless of where they positioned in qualifying. It's just a shame there's a couple of drivers just retired right at the end there. I'm not sure why. Luca in 1 second. But there was some incredibly fast laps. Shame no one managed to get into the mystical 1:25. Absolutely. Which is a very difficult time to get to, especially on this circuit. You've got to be basically millimeter perfect.
It is very difficult, but you know we would have liked to see it. You know, it would have been nice to see, given that we were so ticklingly close, just 35 milliseconds, and we would have been there. But as it is, then Luke Smith is your fastest driver and is on pole position for the British Grand Prix. Alongside them on the front row will be Carter Lundy. From third down, we then have Cookie, Nomsy, Damien, Leonard, Bolan, Millen, Luca, 1 second, Kersey, Alex O'Grady, Svetkov, Modesto Moreno, Moon, JST, Sandro, Jake Finch, John TF1, and Daniel Rocker.
Dear me, that was interesting.
It was certainly a very interesting. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly cut to a video, and then we'll be right back with you after this short break. then. So thank you very much then, folks, for the brief interlude there and rejoining us here. So then, as we just wait for the lobby to sort itself out and get us into the race session, we will just sit and take a moment or two just to reflect on that qualifying session. So, as we mentioned then, Luke Smith getting that 1:26.034 as the pole position time. Just fractionally close to getting into the 125s, which would have been a nice thing to see. But you know, as things were, and we now have 25 seconds left to go. So there we are. Then we will be heading into the new session shortly. In terms of their race pace, then, do you reckon that the Aston Martin's going to be the one to watch here with pole position, or do you think that maybe with the likes of Carter Lundy, Cookie, and Nomsey behind them, just a tenth away, that we could be on for a race-long fight here? What do you reckon?
I think there could definitely be a race-long fight. I don't really think for first place at the very least, but definitely between sort of second and fourth could be an interesting one of this. It does look like the lobby is restarting because I think there has been a bit of an issue as Zvetkov leaves the session, and I might have just been proven correct. So we will have a little bit of a lobby reset by the looks.
A lobby reset in a Codemasters F1 game?
Never.
I can't believe it. Well then, in that case, we shall get that all set up again. Of course, we have the feature to set up custom grids and so on, so we will be able to get everybody into their respective grid positions, and then I suppose we'll just have to hope that everybody honours the gentleman's agreement of starting on the tyres that they qualified in if they were in the top 10, and if they were outside, then of course they have that free tyre choice. It will be of benefit though to those who are in the top 10 starting in this one, because of course they will lack that outlap, timed lap and in-lap wear on their starting tyres. So they'll be able to go that little bit quicker in the first stint. They'll be able to have that bit more speed off the line as well in terms of that initial launch because of the tyres, and we will also see, you know, the likes of a little bit more in the way of tyre life for them as well. Yeah. So we're still just waiting for that lobby to go up at the moment, and we've also been told that unfortunately a game has crashed for one of the participants as well. So we might be waiting just a little while. So we're maybe, considering we've got 120 people odd watching at the moment. First of all, thank you very much for watching and following along. Do make sure to subscribe and like and all that good stuff if you want to see more PSGL action over the course of this weekend, or this week, I should say. Of course, more races going on this evening, and then F1 will be taking place tomorrow, and then of course we'll be looking forward to the next couple of weeks in real life F1, when of course they will go to Sochi. So that's looking to be an interesting one. Hopefully it will be an interesting one anyway. Sochi, of course, having those right angle corners, it doesn't make for fantastic racing all of the time, but you never know. Maybe something will be in the water, and we'll be able to get something interesting happening there.
It's a very Tilke-esque track, Sochi. Everything's 90 degrees, drawn with a ruler.
Exactly, yeah. It's a very, very Tilke circuit. But of course, we will be going to a new circuit, I believe, that's in St. Petersburg in the next couple of years or so, and that's getting FIA Grade 1 approval at some point in the future, and something to which they're working towards. So hopefully a track in St. Petersburg, is going to just be in nicer surroundings, rather than an abandoned Olympic park in Sochi. And yeah, hopefully a better circuit will produce better racing for the Russian crowd.
Sorry, choking on nothing. Welcome to...
That's all right. You choke away. Just die quietly. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So then, in terms of this getting the game set up again, folks, we should be into it relatively shortly. It's just as is always the case with okie dokie, and the lobby is now up, so everybody is starting to jump in and get themselves ready. So we'll be going back to the action in just a moment's time, but of course we will have to wait for everybody to populate and for the grid to be laid out as well. It's also, I can see here, the track is currently selected as Bahrain, so obviously that will need changing as well. In terms of any predictions then, of course on the graphic we have picked George Russell and Bernd Mailander. That's a carryover joke from last week, of course. In terms of this actual race that we're going to be commentating on today, what do you reckon? I would say that my money is going to be on Luke Smith. I think they are, in for a good result sometime soon.
And I definitely agree with you on that one, which is I haven't picked a different driver this time. I think, yeah, I do agree on that one. They had the potential on one of their last final laps to actually go even faster, and we nearly saw a 125. They managed to set a perfect first sector, get it nice and purple, and then just went slightly too wide into the next sector and completely invalidated the lap. And I think they were quite considerably up. So I think for the pace, Luke Smith. I think for consistency, potentially we could also see Luke Smith. He is very consistent, and potentially I think I'd say if I had to pick anyone after that, you're probably looking at Cookie or 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, certainly those who we would expect to do well based off of consistency and where they are in the standings and so on would be that top three. So 1 second, Nonsi and Cookie, currently the top three of the drivers' standings. Luke Smith, I mean, I find it interesting you mentioned that they're consistent because at least whilst I've been commentating on F3, they've been consistently DNFing. So it's they have had one good result. They have had a win, of course, in France back in round 2. But the previous 3 races, and the 3 races since France, in fact, it has been a DNF on each occasion. Now, not all of them have been their fault, of course. Some have been as a result of accidents that have not been their fault. But it is. You feel as though for a driver who's consistently qualifying well, who's consistently racing well until those DNFs, it's one of these things where you'd like to see them back up that first win and say it wasn't just a one-off. Look at me, I can still compete at the front.
I think that is the thing as well. Like, they can race at the pace, and I think the main point is I'm not sure on how many of the races previously they have started on pole. Because I think that's going to be, if they haven't started on pole in previous races, because I don't have the sheet in front of me, unfortunately, to go back and check. If they haven't started on pole in the previous races, being up there, right on the front, controlling the speed off the line, if they get the good start, that will potentially be a much better position to be in than solid midfield. Because if you're stuck in the midfield, a lot more can happen to you, a lot more can go wrong, and 9 times out of 10 I qualify at the back because of my controller. But I think, in terms of that, I think being on pole position will help a lot. Or being up there towards pole position will help a lot. And even just on the front 3 rows, that makes all the difference to being on the back row or in the middle. Don't have as many cars in front of you, as many cars potentially to go wrong. And that's the big one.
That is the big one. That is the big one. Of course, yes, you are absolutely right. Those who will start from around sort of P11, P12, they will get that free choice of tyre, so they may well end up having a better race strategy available to them as far as things go heading into this one. But as you say, being in that middle of the pack, it means that you are more at risk from the melee. And you are able to get yourself, off into the distance, not quite so easily. So, in terms of this lobby, folks, we do apologise for the wait. We are just waiting for everything to get going again. And currently, I can see there are a few drivers starting to ready up. So, hopefully, in just a moment or two's time, we will be able to get going again. In the meantime, I will let Scruffy just talk through some points that they may feel as though they can discuss. Whilst I'm just going to quickly grab myself a water. Back in a moment.
Well, that is one important thing. Always keep hydrated. That's always handy. So I think one quite important thing to speak about here would actually be Silverstone as a whole. It's 26 laps for this race. It's sort of your average. And here, as we see, a lovely flicking thing for Luca in the chat. Everyone's just doing that spam ready up. You're looking at sort of the world record in real world, of course, is 127.097. It's obviously, this is not the real world, and it does make quite a considerable difference because you don't really have to deal with a lot of problems that drivers do have to deal with. I think potentially good overtaking points. We are going to hopefully see some nice battles into cops. That is one of the corners I always love drivers having a battle into. It always makes it interesting. There's always potential flashpoints there. You could definitely see someone going into the wall. It's one of those corners, and I think if someone does go into the wall there, it's always so difficult to tell who's at fault. And it just makes that racing so much more interesting. That's why I love Silverstone. It's honestly such a good track, and it's not just because I'm from Britain. It is such a nice track to watch sport at. It's a great track to... I have actually ridden around it on a bicycle. There's a random little factoid for you today. I have ridden around Silverstone on a bicycle. The curbs are absolutely lethal. Obviously, my bike tyres are a little bit smaller than, gigantic F1 Pirelli tyres, but you get the point. And it's one of those tracks that's it's long. 5.89 kilometers long. It's a chonker of a track. That's what absolutely certain as we now wait for them to spawn into the race setup. Hopefully we've managed to set this up properly and the race gets underway as soon as possible, and hopefully I don't have to bump for much longer because Dan will walk back in hopefully at any second now, which would be absolutely lovely, although it depends on how far his tap is from his desk, of course. Which is the
I've been here for a little while. I've just been listening to it. I've been waiting for a natural stopping point, but you've just been going and going and going. You've got nothing to worry about. You can fill time extremely well, Scruffy. So it's all go then here in the virtual com box. So in terms of things down on the virtual grid, it looks like things are starting to get ready now. We're just waiting for players to actually get into the session after they... there we go, we've now got a timer for 30 seconds until the session starts. So we will be heading on to a formation lap soon, or will we... Okay. And so we'll do a very quick intro video once again, just to reintroduce everybody back to the stream. Welcome back then, everybody. So, on the formation lap we are then, and we have green Mercedes and black Mercedes on the front row in the form of the Aston Martin, of course, of Luke Smith, and Carter Lundy just behind. We were about to then have Cookie come through shot, but they must have made contact with somebody or gone off the circuit or some such thing, because they have been disqualified from the formation lap. So, they will start the race, they will be absolutely fine, but, of course, we will have to wait and see how things go as far as they're concerned, because of course they're not going to get that opportunity to warm up their tyres, warm up their brakes, and warm up the carcass of the tyre as well. So it will be interesting to see what their start off the line is like, and there we go, we have just a brief lag bubble there, it seems, where we've got Luke Smith jumping back towards Carter Lundy, but hopefully that's just a temporary measure, which is going to happen on the formation lap and at no other time during this race. We would like to think, anyway. Oh, and now Nomsy is overtaking Carter Lundy. So it may well have been a Carter Lundy problem rather than a Luke Smith problem. So,
no. This is it. My Codemaster sense is tingling. I don't like that. I don't like the lag spike and suddenly cars start clipping into the back of each other. It just... Ooh, it makes me worried about potentially, hopefully, there's no bugs. That's my absolute hope here, because they are considerable when they do manage to rear their heads.
I was thinking for a brief moment there when you said a Codemaster sense. What, you can sense people from Birmingham? What's the? Oh, no, you can sense problems coming. Right, I see. Fair enough. Maybe they're one and the same. I don't know. I'm joking. People from Birmingham, be kind in the comments. So as we come round the final corner, then on this formation lap, everybody is going to start slotting their way into their grid. Slot, I suppose. And there we will see a little bit of magic as the Aston Martin phases through the Haas of Cookie there, who's been sat waiting on the grid this whole time. And up at the back of the field, we've got one of the McLarens. That's either going to be Alex O'Grady or Jake Finch, but I can't tell which one because it's difficult for Cookie as they go around here. And, we will wait and see for the 5 red lights to start coming on.
I think we've actually... Cars aren't ending up on their right positions. This could be very bad, but let's hope this works.
Oh, well, here we go then. So 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go, and it looks like a relatively decent start from the front row, maybe a better start for the Mercedes on the inside. Yes, you can see there the Aston Martin moving to try and defend. They then take a very long, wide line around the outside. There's quite a bit of contact in the background, then there's a car off circuit as well. The Aston has maintained position off the start, though. The Mercedes maintaining their second place as well, and Cookie has fallen way down the order. They're down to P10 now. Their teammate Damien has come all the way up to P3, and that's a virtual safety car, and we've barely reached the end of the first sector there.
I think there was some hefty contact in the first corner. I did see a piece of wing just decide to yeet itself out of existence. And it just... I think there was some heavy contact. As it then just said, I believe Courtesy went into the back of someone on the track, and it's basically shredded part of the front wing, and I definitely saw a wing flying back there. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone's missing a wing.
Yes, we can maybe have a brief look through the field and have a look and see.
Look.
I mean, if oh yes, you can see there's an Alpine that's missing. Decent amount of front wing, or at least it looks like it. Maybe it was just a case of shadows that maybe looked a bit strange there. But certainly one Alpine has gone out of this race, and that is Modesto Mena. Not Morena, as I said earlier on. I apologise to them. But Modesto Mena has gone out of this race then. They were involved in that contact, I should say, excuse me. No difficulties for the remaining Alpine then. That was just a trick of the light when I thought they were missing a bit of wing earlier. We are green flag racing once again then, here in Silverstone, and here down the field we can see that Nomsy clearly not expecting that restart. No, they're missing a front wing.
Yeah, that's
there
what
you
I was
go.
just going to mention.
That's our driver who's missing the front wing, then falling back down the field like a stone through water. So, into the next lap we go then, and Luke Smith has maintained their lead and have actually managed to grow their lead ever so slightly versus Cartalundi behind, and who has become a little bit more threatened now by Damien just behind in the Haas, who's closing now through the first sector here, and there's not going to be any move up the inside that we can see here. No, absolutely not. Be too dangerous to do at this stage, this early stage in the Grand Prix, but down the Wellington Straight, perhaps with a good exit here and a good bit of ERS deployment rather. No DRS of course, because we're not on lap 3 just yet. We may well end up seeing something in the way of some good action from these guys here. No, and not down into Brooklands on this occasion. So we carry on then. And we can see here the teammate of Nomsy, Kersey here, in your picture at the moment, and they have made a good start. They started outside the top 10. You can see that because they are on the medium tyre. Everyone in the top 10 started on the soft tyre in this one, and so Kersey has made their way up into P8 on that alternative strategy. That might give them a bit of a benefit later on, provided they're able to keep out of trouble, and there are no safety cars or virtual safety cars that upset their flow. So in terms of P5 then, we're having a look now at Leonard, and they are chasing after Bolin in the Alfa Romeo. Now, they've both made some relatively good starts, not been in the wars at all, that we've seen at least. And now, as they head down the Hangar Straight, you can see you must be running very similar downforce levels, because no real impact from the Alpine there on the back of the Alfa Romeo. As they head down into the third sector, then there's a little bit of time lost from Leonard there, but through these next couple of corners, it looks like they've been able to gather some of that back again. And minimise their losses slightly. They're going to have to be careful though. They don't want to make too many mistakes, because last time out's standout performer 1 second is now less than a second behind them. And trust me, we're going to get through an awful lot of those 1 second related puns throughout the course of this race, I'm sure. So, as we head through Sector 1 once again, Leonard has closed the gap to less than half a second now, and with the use of DRS down this next straight, they might be able to get a bit closer in touch, but you can see there, the Alfa Romeo also has the DRS as well. So, they're going to head down now in towards Brooklands and Luffield, and as they head down into that braking zone, there is no move on just yet. So, staying in their positions for now, and a lot of close battles up and down the field. One driver who's done particularly well out of all that starting carnage is Daniel Rocker, of course starting at the very back of the grid. Excuse me, back of the grid. After not being able to set a valid time in qualifying, they are now up to P12 in their Ferrari and just 0.2 of a second behind Moon. And there we now cut to a fight between Jake Finch and John TF1. The McLaren oversteering on the exit there and then being overtaken or re-overtaken perhaps by the Mercedes driver as they went side by side through Luffield there. Great racing between the two of them, and now they go up through Copse Corner. But we'll switch now back to a fight further up the field, and this is Damien now in the Haas going up the inside on Cartalundi. Haas versus Mercedes. Haas gets out in front. That's not something you say very often, certainly not in real life F1. So up into P2 goes Damien in their Haas, and they will now set their sights on Luke Smith up at the front in their Aston Martin. Now further down the field here we've got Kersey still fighting off other drivers in the midfield here. They've dropped a position now to Alex O'Grady, so maybe there's been a mistake from Kersey at some point around this lap, because of course they were sitting in a relatively comfortable P8 when we last saw them on board, but now they're in amongst all those other drivers on medium tyres at the moment. Alex O'Grady leading this group, and then Kersey, JST, Moon, Daniel Rocker then making the rest of that group. And now you can see the AlphaTauri just having a look up the inside of the big sister Red Bull team, and no move on this occasion, but you can see the drivers all in behind there, just trying alternate lines, trying to get better exits, maybe compromising their entries into certain corners just to try and get that better drive out, to try and make use of the DRS, the ERS, and these straights here, this Wellington straight and then this braking zone here. And you can see once again Moon just trying different ways and means of getting around the corners here, because by braking later, taking that outside line, they can carry a little bit more speed. It'll be a longer distance for them to travel though. So that's where they've not been able to win out ahead of JST, just ahead of them. And you can see here that if Alex O'Grady is able to just extend their gap ever so slightly over Kersey, get outside of DRS. That is going to put Kersey under even more pressure than they are right now as they head up towards Mackett and Beckett. And now things are very close, and even now, AlphaTauri goes up the inside. Sensational move! Heading into Mackett and Beckett. Brilliant bit of racing, but now the full safety car has been deployed, and will they have to give that position back? Was that called?
That's Jake Finch.
Before or after? Jack Finch out of this race then in the McLaren. You can see them.
That's Jake Finch. I wonder what happens there.
If you look on the left-hand side of the picture here as we come through, and there we are, the McLaren in the wall there. So not sure how exactly they've been able to have an accident all the way out there. Perhaps it's just been a case of oversteer or getting too much onto that exit curb that we're just seeing the Haas navigating now. So full safety car. So for this first lap, everybody is going to have to drive to the Delta. They're going to have to make sure that they do not exceed their safety car Delta. But everybody now seems to be going into the pits, which is going to compromise those drivers who have teammates in ahead of them, because of course that will mean that they will double stack, and the game does give you a hefty time penalty in terms of resetting the pit crew animation in the case of a double stack. So we've got Luke Smith coming back out at the head of the field, going onto those medium tyres. You'd imagine that here on lap 5,
Jonty F1.
And Jonty F1
staying out
to get themselves up into P1 here.
Are we going to see the Aston safety car as well? Because that is a new safety car they have in this on Silverstone. Are we going to see the Aston? Yes, we are. There's the Aston Martin safety car.
So an Aston Martin leads the field, both in the actual grid and in the safety car. It's nice to finally see it in the game.
It is.
It is a stunning vehicle, isn't it? I mean,
Stunning.
if we be boring car balls for just a second, the Aston Martin is a much nicer car than the Mercedes, isn't it? I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's an Aston Martin.
I do love how it sort of... I love the rear end of that Aston safety car because it simultaneously looks angry and then sad every time it flickers the rear lights. It just looks really disappointed on those pointed upwards rear lights.
That's a very good point. I've never looked at the back of an Aston Vantage before and thought, yes, it looks both sad and happy.
It does actually look very interesting. I love that car. It sounds stunning. If no one's seen the lap they did around a track in that car, I believe they did a lap around Zandvoort in it, definitely go and watch that on YouTube. It is one of the most amazing sounding cars I've ever heard. Even more amazing than the Mercedes safety car, and that says a lot.
It certainly does. So Luca then has a drive-through penalty, you can see there on the screen, and that will not do their Aston Martin team all that well in terms of a constructor's charge, as whilst one of their cars currently leads the field. The other is down in 16th and will not be able to serve that drive-through penalty until the safety car comes in, because of course whilst the safety car is out, you are not allowed to serve any penalties. Same will go for Daniel Rocker's 5-second penalty, which they will have to either serve at their next pit stop, if they have one, or it will be added to their finishing time. And let's look in terms of our movers then. So Jonty F1, we briefly thought maybe would be coming out at the head of this field. They must have come out, it must have been that Luke Smith came out just ahead at the safety car line, and then Jonty had to give that position back as a result. So that may well be why they ended up going back down to second when on track it certainly looked as though they were out in the lead. But yes, they haven't pitted just yet, but by not doing so and taking advantage of this safety car, they're on medium tyres that have only done 5 racing laps, of which we then of course had the extended period during lap 1 where we had the virtual safety car in effect, which would have allowed them to save tyres just a little bit as well during that period. And now during this safety car period as well, they will also be able to save tyres. So it's a very good strategy so far for Jonty F1, and one which I'm sure if they're able to maintain pace with those around them and not drop back too much, then when they have to go on to softs later on in this race, because of course you have to run 2 dry tyre compounds if the race does stay dry, then it may well be that we end up seeing them charging back through the field with an awful lot of pace towards the end here. We'll wait and see, and we'll keep an eye on Jonty F1 in that Mercedes.
Absolutely, and I think it's always making me a little bit anxious when Luke Smith just keeps slamming the accelerator by the safety car. These safety cars do not move in this game. If you go down the inside of one and you get caught by it, you're basically being pushed into the wall, and you will become one with the wall. So I think it's really a case of hoping that as Jake Finch leaves the session, yeah, Moon is indeed switched onto those soft tyres, slightly faster. But way less. What's the word I'm looking for? Durable. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, brain. My brain's dictionary stopped working for a second there. No, these on those softs, they are a lot less durable than, say, the hards. Mediums, they are also a lot less durable than. So I think it is very much a case of, can he make those Asking, can Moon get around the track properly, as the safety car will be in this lap, with Luke Smith able to set the pace of the field behind him.
Absolutely. So it's a very late call by the safety car in the middle of Copse Corner, not Copse Corner, I should say Stowe Corner, when they suddenly decided that, yep, that's what we're going to do. And that's a 5-second time penalty down at the back of the field for Cookie, having a collision with Milan there, I believe that was. So as we get ready to go racing once again, then through the final corner they go. Luke has gone, but John TF1 has been wise to it. They have stuck right with them here, and with laps, tyres that are 5 laps older, they are now in hot pursuit again, and it's going to be a question of whether or not they've been able to save those tyres effectively.
Brilliant move by 1 second.
Oh, 1 second. Oh, dear. And that's contact there between Boland and Leonard there. Oh. Leonard in the Alpine going off circuit and then trying to come back on and dangerously rejoining, it must be said. And then you can see here Boland lost their front wing entirely from that incident.
It's 3 wide between... It was 3 wide between Zvetkov, JST and Leonard as the Ferrari of Zvetkov goes to the inside.
Oh, dear. And what's happened there? Massive contact. Sorry to cut you off there, Scruffy, but massive contact between John TF1 and whichever Haas that was, Damien that was alongside them. That looked like a massive incident there between the pair of them. Damien has left the session, so that may well have been a network-related issue rather than a deliberate attempt by one driver to. Oh dear, and that's a Williams. Sandro has retired from the session. They're on those brand new hard tyres. You've seen some enormous accident. And they've gone off the circuit there. Dear, oh dear, this is not how we want to see things racing on a restart here at the British Grand Prix. But as we continue then, Moon is on a charge on those soft tyres. No DRS just yet because we've had that full safety car and no 3 laps of racing just yet to re-enable it. But just from the grip on offer from those tyres, they've been able to out-drag the AlphaTauri all the way down the straight there. And then, oh dear, Milan has also gone off. Dear, oh dear, what has happened?
This is an absolute mess. What on earth is... Cookie is disconnected ahead of Milan there. Alex Agreda getting a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. What is going on? I'm not entirely... I'm questioning whether this is driver error at this point. Because it... Milan just slammed the wheel to the right, retired from the... What is going on? I think we could potentially be seeing some problems here, but we shall continue as if they are not here just yet.
Absolutely, we shall keep on going. The show must go on, of course. And if we are told that things are going to get restarted, then of course we shall bring you all the latest when we are made aware of it. But as far as this battle up front is concerned, we've got John TF1 fighting their teammate Carter Lundy at the moment. There has been some suggestion that John T has disconnected. If so, their AI is driving some wild lines. But as things look at the moment, it looks like they are defending reasonably well from their teammate, who is on those much younger tyres. Now, if I was a Mercedes strategist, I'd be telling them to swap positions at this point, because you've got...
And there they go.
The driver who qualified much higher up, and then
whoa!
Just squeezed him all the way off the circuit there. That is not what you want to see between teammates. That's not what you want to see between racers, in fact. We've now got 1 second taking advantage of that and going up into P3 in their Williams. They are also now right on the back of John TF1. About half a second separates these two drivers as they come across the start-finish line, and now they will head down towards the Wellington Straight through this first sector first, of course, but that Wellington Straight will offer 1 second that opportunity to get the DRS open, get some use of that ERS deployment as well, and then once they've gotten all that sorted out and done, they will be able to make some attempts at a move, you would imagine. So as they head now down towards the Wellington Straight, we'll see that, there we go, that letterbox, that rear wing opens up for 1 second there, and the Williams starts to come along, not long enough on the Wellington Straight for them to get alongside and make a move, but they did manage to close up some bit of a gap there, and now they'll have to just follow through Brooklands and Luffield here, and now down towards the old start-finish straight they'll go. They'll then be able to make use of their ERS here. They're not currently using it, so they're just gaining by virtue of the extra traction that they've got on those younger tyres, and also from the slipstream, of course. And now as they head through Copse Corner, it looked nice and tidy from them, a bit less so from John TF1 ahead. And now through Mackenzie as they go, the Mercedes and the Williams are so close to one another, so much in the way of little room for error here. And now they head through the exit and onto Hangar Straight. This is where the opportunity will lie. Massive overspeed for 1 second here. They just slingshot by the Mercedes, and it's done even before the braking zone for Stowe. Brilliant move, brilliant way to just tee up that move there and then swing around up the inside of John TF1. 3 second time penalty for Luca for multiple warnings that I'm sure will be to do with track extension and corner cutting.
Blimey, this race has been absolutely mental past the 8th lap. It's been incredibly... Everyone's split up, but there's a lot of cars together, and it's going to be interesting to see John TF1 and Cartalundi again being teammates, but John TF1 squeezing Cartalundi right off the track. I'm not sure that was an AR-controlled car at that point, so I think that may have just been a little bit of complacency. As Luke Smith is absolutely running away in the lead. Let's hope for his sake that this isn't a restart. The only thing is, Cartalundi makes an absolute speed move for John TF1. Has he got potential damage, John TF1? Because that was a massive overspeed.
It was a massive overspeed. I'm just wondering if
Whoa!
maybe there's been oh dear, and that's something.
That was desync. That was desync.
Something must be wrong.
That was
Cartalundi
desync.
is retired from the session now as well.
That's basically the description of this. That's it.
That is the latest patch, Codemasters. Here's your feedback.
It's literally just the Dinkelberg face with
Yes, indeed. I mean, here's hoping at some point EA is going to see the absolute shambles that is this game and give them a kick up the backside.
As far as I know, that's the thing. They let Codemasters sort of do their thing, and I think I'm not sure what's going on here, but something is happening, and I'm not entirely sure it's all down to the drivers. If it is, that's pretty abysmal, but I don't think it is.
No, I think if that was entirely down to the drivers, and from John T specifically, then I would imagine that race bans or possibly even division bans would be on their way shortly, because it's 2 incidents they've been involved in now, at least, possibly even 3 when you count what happened with Damien earlier on as well, where they seem to just either they've been desynced and therefore they've had no role to play in that accident, or they've just ended up having an incident where it's been totally avoidable. We've now got this fight between John TF1, or potentially the ghost of John TF1, versus Moon. Moon moves up the inside on those soft tyres, gets that later braking done, and there they go, up into Brooklands and Luffield, and they are ahead. But will they stay ahead, or will a Mercedes-shaped wrecking ball come barreling through them? We will wait and see.
I think he may actually not be able to see anyone, just judging by what's happened. He's gone straight into the side of Carter, which would indicate that he can't see them. He's gone straight into the back of his right wheel without even looking like he's knowing he's there. So I think what potentially could be the problem here is John TF1 may not be able to see certain drivers, which would explain a lot of the problems that is happening with him right now. Wouldn't explain everyone else, but it might explain his.
Yes, absolutely. And we've now got there's no DRS in operation on that Mercedes either, which you would imagine, wanting to overtake somebody, there would be. So there's it's an interesting decision if again they are actually in control, but we don't imagine that is the case. We do think that there is some sort of a desync issue going on at the moment, but there we are then. So we continue then on lap 12 of 26. We've got Moon currently in P3 on the podium on those soft tyres that are considerably younger than John T's tyres as well. So despite the fact that the softs will go off quicker than the mediums, I would imagine that in terms of a pace differential, we will see that John T will not be able to reclaim a position anytime soon, or at least the ghost of John T won't be able to, you would imagine. So DRS opens at the back of the Mercedes though, so maybe I'm about to eat my words, but here they come, dun, 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 and no move on this time for the Mercedes driver.
And it will be a shame, of course, if this race has to get called due to desync, because Luke Smith has driven an absolutely stonking race. He absolutely deserves to be in the position he's in. It would be an absolute shame. But as the moment stands, Smith leads the race by and then 1 second. Moon, John TF1 is Zvetkov to top out your top 5. So it will be an interesting one for certain to see how this ends up. As Zvetkov is getting mighty close to the back end of John TF1 and Moon. We're going to have a battle between 3 cars here.
I think that the DRS may well be acting as not just John T's opportunity to overtake the Alfa Romeo here, but also their saviour from the attack from the Ferrari behind. Because, of course, when you get in that DRS train, it is very difficult to overtake. So, John T there being able to have a stay of execution from the Alfa Romeo for now. Into the braking zone they go then. And from this camera angle, we can't see anything really other than just a profile view of the Mercedes. But as they come through the final corner then, we've got then some weaving going on from Moon there. Not entirely certain what that's about, but the Alfa Romeo is holding on respectably well here. They're not able to make some inroads at the moment to 1 second up ahead in the Alpine, in the Williams, I should say. So as a result, they're seeing a gap forming now of about 2.2 seconds it is between Moon and 1 second. So 1 second, there's 2 1 seconds in between Moon, and 1 second. There we go. We're going to get enough of these in as we possibly can.
Maybe
we've got... Yes, exactly.
Yes.
John TF1 then, currently trying to overtake Moon and also trying to defend from this man, Svetkov, behind in the Ferrari, who in turn is trying to defend from JST in the AlphaTauri, who in turn is trying to defend from Kersey, who in turn is trying to defend from Daniel Rocker. All the gaps are incredibly small at the moment, with less than half a second between most of these drivers in this group that I've just described. Daniel Rocker, though, is one to certainly look out for, because whilst everybody ahead of them is on hard tyres, they are on mediums of the same age, and they may well be able to get them to the end, in fact, if they're able to coax them along. So it may be that the hards end up coming back towards those drivers towards the end of this race, but we'll have to wait and see. So into Stowe corner we go then. Again, no move on for any of these drivers that we're having a look at the moment, with the Alfa Romeo holding on well here, given that they have no DRS. And Silverstone is one of those circuits where it is very difficult to actually start doing what Luke Smith and what 1 Second have done here, and that is to drive away. Because trying to break that DRS toe, as once again, Moon weaves on the Hamilton straight for some reason. I'm starting to think there might be some sort of a desync issue for them now as well. Because I can't possibly think as to why you would want or need to do that. But as we come through the loop then, we're seeing a bit of a dropping back there from John TF1. And that's just put them slightly closer to Svetkov, but it's also just dumped a huge amount of dirty air on the wings of Svetkov, so that's resulting in them dropping back just a little bit. Jonty is now right up the gearbox of the Alfa Romeo. Please, please don't hit them off the circuit, Jonty, or Ghost of Jonty, whatever is driving that Mercedes at the moment. And, well, around we go then. And once more, it is another tour where we do not see any action into Luffield or into Brooklands. So, up towards Copse Corner they go then. And Moon is able to just maintain their gap. It's still hovering around that sort of 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second all lap long. But if they're not able to get away a bit here during Maggott and Beckett, as they are now starting to do so, there you go, you see 5 tenths now, the gap. But it's started to come down again before they've exited that section. So it might be now, this might be an opportunity where Jonty's actually able to get a move on here. We'll wait and see. So they're coming up to Stowe now. We're getting towards the braking zone. It would be brave if they do. No, not on this occasion. But I feel like Svetkov really wanted to try something there and just backed out at the last moment. So in terms of this battle then, it continues on. A bit of a late braking then, going a bit deep for John TF1, and that's really put them off in that corner, and that's allowed Svetkov to really get tucked up onto the rear wing of the Mercedes. And now Moon has also been able to get a half-second gap on the Mercedes as a result of that mistake as well. So if they're able to keep that pace, keep that positioning, then that means that it could be we see Svetkov trying something down the Wellington Straight in just a couple of corners' time. We'll wait and see here. They're taking a wide entry line here to try and get the best exit they possibly can. It's not really worked for them. You see the oversteer there, and they've dropped back massively. All of a sudden, it's gone from about a 1 or 2 tenths gap to now 4 tenths of a gap between the pair of them, and they've both got DRS. So as a result, there's no chance that Svetkov is going to get a move done there. Positions as they were.
But even then, just the cars behind Svetkov, you've got 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all bunched up in a big group. The DRS basically becoming less and less effective the further back you go. So it's basically a case of someone's got to make a move eventually, and it's most likely going to be sent. Like, they have to send it at certain points, because if you don't go for the move, then there's no way that anyone's going to get past each other.
Absolutely not. Not unless somebody is able to come along with a significant tyre advantage. And the one driver who may well be able to do that is, ironically, the one who's amongst the front of this train, and that is Jonty. If Jonty are able to get themselves into the pits and get a set of softs on, perhaps just 10 laps from the end, or maybe even if they can stretch their way into maybe 9 laps from the end, then we can see from Moon ahead of them, they're on 9-lap-old soft tyres. Those tyres have gone a decent distance and are keeping them competitive with those behind. But as they now cross the line and start a 10th lap on these tyres. But what we could end up seeing, potentially, is that if Moon is able to hold up this traffic, whilst Jonty is able to pit, get some fresh softs on with a lighter car, with the track more rubbered in, then they may well be able to get up onto the back of this train and then start picking off these guys one by one. We'll have to wait and see. The DRS open once again for John TF1, but you can just tell already, before we even get to the braking zone, that's too far back. So down they go then into that braking zone, and no inroads for them on this occasion. They have taken that corner a bit better, though, than Moon. Able to clip the apex nicely, and then in this corner here you can see that it sort of, you start wider on the entry, and then it all sort of tightens up as you try and V off the corner. So everybody navigating through nicely there as they head up towards Copse Corner, and now we'll go through there with the cars still line astern, all about half a second still separating them. as things stand. Jonty is, I feel though, that is starting to lose a bit in the way of tyre grip now, because for the last few laps, they have been able to follow the back of Moon within about 0.3 of a second, most of the lap long, until we get to Magnussen Beckett, which then dropped to about a half second. Now, it's gotten significantly bigger gaps than that. I say significantly in F1 terms. It's only about maybe sort of 4, 5, 6 tenths rather than 2 or 3 tenths, but it's still signs that maybe these 15-lap-old mediums are really starting to go off here and feel the pain and the punishment. Of course, it's the soft tyres ahead that have done 10 laps will not be all the good either, but they will still be able to hang on just that little bit better, given that they are running in clean air, in cooler air, and not having to deal with fighting a car behind. Because for the most part here, Moon hasn't really had to move offline or get defensive or anything like that. They've just been running their own race.
Moon, incidentally, has a 3-second penalty above Jonty F1. So as it stands, if the race was to finish as this, Jonty F1 would leapfrog Moon. So regardless of where he finishes right now, this is going to be an interesting one, because Jonty F1 is going to have to pit. He's just going to have to, but so is Moon. Because he's on the soft at 11 lap hold, which, if the mediums are pushing it at 16, then dear God, those softs are going to be absolutely on fire.
Absolutely. Of course, with all these tyres, of course, we must take into account and consideration that some of those laps that they've done will have been behind the safety car. And in the case of Jonty's tyres, they will, of course, have done a little bit of a stint behind the virtual safety car at the start of this race as well. So there will be a little bit in the way of tyre saving, which will give them a little bit of a benefit as we now go onto the hangar straight. And we can see now Jonty F1 moving to the inside. They've bided their time. They've waited for the opportune moment, and they've gone up the inside in Stowe Corner. Is the battle over yet between them and Moon? We will wait and see over the next few corners. But good move from the Mercedes driver to get by the Alfa Romeo. As they head now through the last couple of corners, we can see there just going too deep again. Jonty F1, they've had trouble in that corner before. And now, as they head through the final turn onto the Hamilton straight, they lead the way by only a 1.5 tenths of a second to Moon just behind them. The Alfa Romeo is sniffing at the back of the Mercedes there, closing up and up and up all the time. Will they chance a move up the inside? No, they do not. They think the better on this occasion. They're now heading up towards this next complex here. They're going to go through the DRS detection zone in just a moment's time as well. And that will then lead them onto the Wellington Straight. And then over the line they go. DRS open for the Alfa Romeo. They are closer than Jonty ever was to them. And will that promote a move? No move provoked on this occasion. Though, I say that's certainly true of the Alfa Romeo. The Ferrari, though, of Svetkov is having a look and getting all a bit interested in the back of this Alfa Romeo ahead of them.
It's still incredibly close. Like, we're heading down towards Cops at this point. It's so fast, and everyone is so right on the back end of people. And Moon has got the speed on Jonty F1, but the problem is, going into Magnussen Beckett, there is no overtaking opportunity there unless you are absolutely insane. But this may be the main point. If you can get a good exit out of here, get the DRS open on Jonty F1, that will give a huge overspeed, and it does give a huge overspeed. As he's now going to try to get on the inside.
I'm going to be a 2-1. Oh, it looks like it. Oh, no, maybe not on this occasion. Jonty F1 is able to defend from Svetkov, but not from Moon. Moon retakes the position in the Alfa Romeo. Clearly enough in the tank there in terms of the ERS and in terms of fuel modes and tyre grip to be able to mount a counter-attack there against the Mercedes. Good move from then into Stowe Corner.
And Moon has been definitely saving up that ERS, because if you look at Jonty F1, he's on 38%. Moon, however, is on over 60. So he's 100% recharging, making sure that he's got that ERS for when he needs it, but when he knows he doesn't need it, that's when he's making sure to recharge it, and he's using it incredibly sparingly, not wasting it through the corners, which is what a lot of people do. They leave it on through the corners, waste it coming out the corners, because even at the end of a straight, Moon is turning off that ERS, because he's already completed the straight line speed he needs.
Yes, indeed. And sorry, there was a sharp intake of breath from me there, because I thought we were maybe seeing a move in the background here from this man, Daniel Rocker. It looked like there was maybe a little bit of a move up the inside into Luffield, but there was no such move as it turns out. However, they've had a fantastic run versus the Red Bull ahead of them, that being of Kersey just ahead. And now as they head down towards Magnussen Beck, as you mentioned before, no one would ever dream of overtaking. That's certainly true in the dry through this area here. Of course, think back to 2016, Max Verstappen round the outside of Nico Rosberg in the wet here. But of course,
grip from anywhere.
Perfectly, he certainly can, and perfectly dry conditions today, though, so no repeat of those heroics, you'd imagine. And now as they head down the hangar straight, things are getting closer and closer all the time as these guys just feel the effects of tyre wear, and they're able to just get that bit closer to the cars ahead who are going slower than them. But that DRS train effect is still in operation. They are still just unable to clear one another and get free. And ultimately, if Moon was able to do that, if there was enough in Moon's tyres to be able to just extract that 1 second of time from them to John TF1, then that would mean that things, I would imagine, would start tumbling down in terms of the likes of John TF1 going back down the field with those much older medium tyres at this point.
That's incredibly close. I don't think I've ever seen a
move at the inside. That's one of the Red Bulls. That's Nomsy barging their way by there and forcing Daniel Rocker off track. Very aggressive move.
Yeah.
It seems to have worked for him. Maybe that was a desync maneuver, but it was... Oh! Massive contact! Massive contact! And Daniel Rocker there, out of the session, and a full safety car has been deployed, and that is going to work especially well for Moon and John TF1. Drivers who definitely needed to pit it before the end of this race, and with 6 laps to go, at least 2 of which will be behind the safety car, then, well, that's going to be... That is going to be a good end to the race for them. Getting some fresh softs on, or fresh mediums, go to the end of this race. But this man here, Luke Smith, is going to absolutely hate this decision. That is not going to be good for them, because that means that...
Kersey's off.
Kersey's off. Kersey's off the circuit. So there we are then.
What's going on?
Oh dear, oh dear. So Nomsy then up into P7, whilst their teammate has gone off the circuit during this safety car period. And Luke Smith then predictably heads into the pits, as they're going to need to be able to get some fresh tyres on to defend from behind at this safety car restart.
Might I add, from what I saw with Daniel Rocker there, that was... It looked very much like dive bombery.
It did look a bit intentional.
And Nomsy was... I'm pretty sure Nomsy's got a bit of desync. He couldn't see where he was. But that Daniel Rocker one 100% looked like payback. If I'm brutally honest. And that's not nice to see. But that, of course, is worst case. And I hope that it wasn't on purpose. But it was just 100% out of nowhere, straight into the side of the car. Luckily, the person in front of him, I don't think, got much damage, if I remember correctly, but he may have. Who was it that he went for the side off?
That was Kersey, I think.
Yeah, I think Kersey hasn't gone too bad.
It was one of the Red Bulls. I forget which one. Whoever it was that was ahead initially, and then the other one has gone off the circuit. So I'd imagine that, considering Kersey is still on the circuit and hasn't pitted, then I'd imagine it was Nomsy then that was the one who overtook the Ferrari of Daniel Rocker. But yeah, that was because I mean, it wasn't like some of the other issues that we've seen that could potentially be desyncs, where we've had, you know, drivers going through one another essentially, and you know, it's not been a case that someone's gone for a move and it's not paid off. It's just been a case that the car has just stuck to the racing line and knocked somebody off the circuit. Kersey has gone all the way up to the lead. They're on hard tyres that have.
He's overtaken under the safety car.
Yeah, he stayed out on circuit. Whilst everybody else has been pitting.
Oh, was that what it was? Was he out in front of Luke Smith at the restart? Sorry, there's so much going on right now. There's so much going on right now that it's so hard to keep track. Yeah, so it looks like we've got Kersey up in the lead and Luke Smith just behind. And, Luke Smith's got his work cut out, because Kersey's fast.
Kersey is fast, but you would like to think at least that, oh dear, what on earth is going on here? 5-second penalty for Moon for ignoring yellow flags. Well, you'd imagine that's for a desync issue. Same for Svetkov. Again, we'd imagine that's probably a desync issue. We've also got Damien ghosted. You can see there just on the left of your picture. Dear oh dear, this is absolutely not working out the way that we would like it to. But here we go then. So, Kersey continues to lead the field around. But we're going to have to wait and see when the safety car comes in. And they got very close to the back of the safety car there. No need to get that close. Come on now, leave a bit of space.
I know it looks fantastic. I know the car looks beautiful, but don't need to see it that close up. That's
no. Wait until Parc Fermé to get that close. Honestly. So then, as we're just waiting for the cars to go around, we do suspect that the race is now officially, based on some of the comments coming in from drivers no longer in the session. It does seem as though the race is cancelled and no points will be awarded.
It's not. We've had no confirmation, as far as I can tell.
Oh, have we not?
We've had no confirmation from C at all that this race will be cancelled. So as far as I'm aware right now, full points still running. Obviously, they will look at it afterwards. I'm very sure, but for now, I think. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that's the point. It's a case of the main person who can make the decisions, of course, makes those decisions. How it works out at the end of that, that's up to them. But for now, we're still racing. And regardless of whatever desync issues there are, there's still 11 drivers on the field. That's what matters.
And that's going to mean that there's going to be some vicious fighting, I'd imagine, at the back of the field to get that final points-paying position. But with so few drivers remaining, you would hope that we won't end up losing any more, because that would not be the way that we would want to see this race end. That being said, though, if we've still got some desync issues, then that may end up happening. Safety car in this lap, then. They called that much earlier this time than previously. You can see here, driving offline is getting all of Kersey's tyres very dirty indeed. They're just getting covered in marbles and other debris there, and that's not especially good. Do you know, there's an explosion in a cheese factory. There's debris everywhere. So anyway, and there's an audible groan from Biggles. We get ready to go. So we have one final tour to go under safety car conditions, but as we come around the final couple of corners then, Kersey looks like he's gone, and he's now going to be chased in hot pursuit by Luke Smith, who has led every lap of this race, with the exception of these last couple behind the safety car. So, and it's an immediate mistake. Those tyres are not ready to go racing on Kersey's wagon, and there we go, a fairly easy pedestrian overtake for Luke Smith there. 1 second also sneaks their way through, and that puts the Red Bull all the way back down to P3, and now already you've got Moon, Svetkov and Nomsi all on the back of them and just waiting and ready to go after them.
This is going to be a fantastic end to the race here. 1 second right up the back end of Luke Smith. Kersey's mistake there has dropped him right into third, which is not the ideal position. That was incredibly
very close, very close between Svetkov and Moon. And Moon just taking the normal racing line. Svetkov trying to get one up the inside and force the issue, but they were given no quarter at all. The door firmly shut in their face.
You might be seeing an overtake into Baggett and Beckett.
Oh dear, please don't touch, guys. Please don't touch. Oh, and it's a brilliant ballsy move from Moon there, up the inside. And brilliant racing from them. Good from Kersey to give them the space as well. And now as we head down on the hanger straight, no DRS yet, and you can see what the difference in tyre grip does. The Red Bull moves to the inside to try and defend from the Ferrari behind. But I suspect as we come back down the hill now, they'll be forced to the inside. The Ferrari will draw alongside. And now, will there be an overtake? It looks like it. They go side by side into the last couple of corners of Silverstone. And as we have the wide shot now, we're waiting. Oh! Contact! What a shot that we got! Oh, what a brilliant camera shot! But not a good result there for Svetkov. Svetkov off into the wall there. Looks like they are still going maybe in this race. Yes, they're still going, but they've left the session, so they've decided, nope, that's it. I'm not taking any more part in this one, which you can understand, to be honest. There's only 2 laps to go, and they've been involved in a massive shunt there.
That's a shame. That was a fantastic battle. I don't even know what happened. I know he went into the side of him, but it was so fast and so immediate that I have no idea what happened. As we're seeing Nomsi and Lennon having a lovely little battle between the two of them. Nomsi right on the backside. He's got the speed on Lennon, and he's going to be able to get the run right down here. Thankfully, no one making that absolutely send-it move into the fast right-hander. And Nomsi going very wide. Has he potentially got some damage? Because that was an incredibly wide corner there.
It certainly was. Yasonj in our YouTube chat at the moment, pointing out our priorities as a presenting team, that were more interested in the brilliant shot rather than the incident on circuit. At 1 second then is attempting an overtake on Luke Smith then for the lead, for the win of this race. We do have just over 2 laps to go. We've got this lap to go, obviously, and then we have the penultimate lap, the 25th lap in this 26-lap race.
Oh, no!
And then one more tour after that. So we've had an incident further back between Jonty F1 and Kersey.
Oh, no!
Kersey off as well. And not quite the drama that we saw with Svetkov, but
the desync.
But still, and well, it looks on this occasion at least that Red Bull has still given them wings. Still some on the car there. But they predictably retire from this session after that impact. So we've got then just 2 laps to go in this race. We have on board at the moment JST hunting down Jonty F1, a driver who's been in the wars just a little bit, though perhaps no fault of their own if they have been suffering from desync issues. Luke Smith on 1 second still hammer and tong with one another. Absolutely brilliant racing between these guys up at the front, trying to battle for the win. 1 Second has been patiently biding their time most of this race long, and then after the safety car, they've properly gone for it. They've stuck within a second all this time since the safety car came in, and we'll have to wait and see as to whether or not there's going to be some move for the lead. There's going to be no DRS until next lap, the final lap. And as long as 1 Second is able to stick within about half a second, maybe 4/10 through the exit of Maggots and Beckett's on that final lap. Oh no, there is DRS. I do apologise. There is already DRS in operation. We just saw it there, opening at the back of the Williams. So, if they're able to exit out of Maggots and Beckett's with a decent enough tow, maybe about 3/10 a gap to Luke Smith just ahead of them, they may be able to get something done in Stowe. We will stick with this battle then for the lead unless something happens. Fastest lap for 1 second. So currently, as it stands, they will get that extra point for the fastest lap in this race, and we will wait and see how this battle goes. There's a half second between the pair of them. Let's go down now on this final lap. We're going through Loop and Village. We're through the first couple of corners. It looks like the Williams sticking within that half second for now. No dramas on that Williams car at the moment. They now head onto the Wellington straight. Luke Smith moves very defensively to the inside of the circuit there. The Williams has the DRS. They've been able to close down by a couple of tenths or so in this final lap on the Wellington straight. Through Luffield and Brooklands they go. And now, as they circle around here, it's a nice tight exit line there from Luke Smith. They've used as much curb as they dare on exit, more so than 1 second. 1 second has gotten a decent enough exit out there. The gap is 4/10 of a second as they head down towards Copse Corner. As they head through Copstead, it looks like just a little bit of AstroTurf was taken there by Luke Smith, using every inch of road they possibly can to stay ahead and keep their advantage. They know that they're going to be vulnerable here. Down the hanger straight, through Maggots and Beckett's they go. It's getting all the more tense and all the more exciting as we head down now onto the exit. It then is DRS in activation for the Williams. They head down towards Stowe Corner. It's getting closer and closer. 3/10, 2.5 2/10, 1.5 into Stowe they go. It's very, very close. Will there be a late last dive bomb into the last couple of corners here at Silverstone? Will we see an instant like Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen a couple of years ago? No, it doesn't look like it. Luke Smith has hung on. Luke Smith comes round the final corner and wins the British Grand Prix and sets a fastest lap, only to be pipped by 1 second just a moment later. Brilliant bit of racing from these guys on the final lap.
That's an incredible race. Regardless of all the desync issues, regardless of that, there was a ton of DNS, but that battle between Luke Smith and 1 second was honestly one of the best final battles. That went very much down to the wire, and it was all because of that safety car, pulling the grid right back together. And blimmin', hell my heart, that is incredible.
The game decides that John TF1 is driver of the day. I am not entirely certain who I would be going with.
What
as,
an amazing celebration move.
It's absolutely that is top draw, that one. I think it is fair to say.
That's great.
And as the champagne sprays at Silverstone, then we have an Aston, a Williams, and an AlphaTauri. There we go. I've seen the other driver's suit there. So we've got those guys on the podium. And yeah, brilliant bit of racing in the closing stages of that one. So in terms of your winners and losers this time then, winner of this race is Luke Smith in the Aston Martin, and then behind them second is 1 second. JST then comes along in third to complete the podium. From those from fourth down we then have Leonard, Cookie, Moon, John TF1, Damien, Nomsi, Svetkov, Kersey, Daniel Rocker, Alex O'Grady, Luca, Carter Lundy, Bolan, Milan, Sandro, Jake Finch, and then Modesto Mena. They're rounding out the order. In terms of driver of the day, I think I'm going to have to give it to JST. I think that's a very how the AI decides it, but from 16th on the grid to podium, that's pretty respectable. That's a good drive. One that flew mostly under the radar as well, as it was.
Very much was. And can I make a suggestion? Potentially not interviews. I don't think people are going to be for interviews today.
Do you know? I don't think they will.
No, that was a very interesting race.
No, I don't. Yes, I think it would be safer for us not to. I think they'll try and find out where we live otherwise.
Yeah, let's avoid that. I think, yep, we have, of course, got F2, I believe, going on as well, but that may be tomorrow. I can't remember. We have a confirmation on that.
Well, if F2 is happening or is about to happen, then we certainly hope that they don't have the same issues that we have over the course of this race.
Let us hope.
But yes, that has been an up and down British Grand Prix. I think it is fair to say. We've had highs and we've had lows. There's been some fantastic racing and some very troubling network issues. Clearly, despite a recent patch, Codemasters still have not fixed this game. We will obviously hope for a better outcome next week when the championship goes over to the next round. But as things stand today, our provisional results show Luke Smith winning the British Grand Prix in their Aston Martin. Fitting that the Silverstone-based team gets a win at Silverstone Circuit. So, any closing thoughts from you there, Scruffy?
I can't even. That's basically why that honestly was, unfortunately, not the best show of F1 2021. But it still did bring some excellent racing. We still had a fantastic final lap battle. And I think that's all that matters. As long as we have at least a few moments of impressive racing, that makes it slightly worthwhile.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's rightly pointed out by the Rohi in chat. And that's a bit like Thanos snapping his fingers and then half the grid disappeared. But it's, as far as the surviving grid is concerned, they gave us a good race at least. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. So F2 is on, I'm just being told as well. So what we will do is we will encourage you all to go and watch that. And we have thoroughly enjoyed bringing this to you, for the good bits at least. My name has been Daniel Gilligan. I have been joined in my virtual commentary box today by Scruffy.
Thank you very much.
And then in our virtual control room by Biggles.
Who is there? Somewhere.
Who's there somewhere? He's muted. He's not gonna jump on, everybody. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. Hope you have a very pleasant rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world.
Every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face getting clearer. The past is gone, 'cause it went by like dusk to dawn. Isn't that the way? Everybody's got their dues in life to pay. Oh, I know nobody knows where it comes and where it goes. I know it's everybody's sin. You've got to lose to know how to win. These ideas are not mails to what parents whose worst fear is a child with dyed hair and who likes earrings. Like whatever they say has no bearing. It's so scary in a house that allows no swearing. To see him walking around with his headphones blaring, alone in his own zone cold, he don't care. He's a problem child. What bothers him all comes out when he's talking about his fucking dad walking out. So he hits him so bad, so he blocks him out. If he ever saw him again, he'd probably knock him out. His thoughts are whacked, he's mad, so he's talking back, talking black, brainwashed from rock and rhymes. So he sags his pants, do rags in a stocking cap. His stepfather hit him, so he socked him back. Then he broke his nose. This house is a broken home. There's no control, he just lets his emotions go. So we can sing with me, sing for a year, sing for laughter, sing for the tear. Sing with me just on a day, maybe tomorrow the good Lord take you away. Because dream on, and dream on, dream until your dreams come true.